I'm going to move on to our final speaker, who is very unique, actually. Trying to read up about what he's done takes a long time. I'll give you a quick summary. He's the founder and MD of Service Brand Global. He's a publisher, an author, published author. He is a coach. He is a non-executive director of the British Quality Foundation. He's a faculty member of Culture University. Yet when I asked him, how do you want me to introduce you? He said, and I quote, "I'm an operator at heart." This is a man of action. And it was clear, speaking to him last night over dinner, that there's more here than just the theory. There's a lot of genuine experience seeing things happen, getting down to the nitty-gritty of making things work, not just telling you how to do it, which is what is really exciting. You can just focus on the why and the what we should do, but really knowing how to make it happen is going to be key. Personally, from that conversation, I can also tell you that here's someone who you can genuinely have an intelligent conversation with, and I don't think there's any greater praise for anyone. Please welcome to the stage, Alan Williams.
Thanks, mate. I thought he was talking about somebody else then. Thanks very much, Bob. Before we start, just want to set the scene if I could. What I'd like you to do, please, is be present not only because you're here in body, but be present in mind as well. We've got a short period of time, and if you're not present, you're going to miss stuff. Also, please don't take what I say as being read, because I think content is way overrated. What's more important is your context. So as you listen to what I'm talking about, please ask yourself the question, two questions. One, do I agree with that or not? And if you don't, that's absolutely fine. And secondly, well, what am I going to do about that, or what could I do about that in my place of work? So that's how I'd like you to approach the next period of time, please. And, yeah, see, I'm looking at that one back there thinking it's the same as this one here, but it's not, is it? Right, so this is what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about some conceptual thinking around values, why it's so important now and more important than it ever has been before. And then at the end, we're just going to really focus on that, well, what are you going to do about it? Fundamentally, if we spend the next 20 minutes together and nothing is different afterwards, what's the point, really? So, in terms of a concept, I'd really like to explain what I refer to as the values economy in the context of customers' relationships, taking the example of coffee. Now, when coffee first started to be traded, it was just a commodity, no more than that. Then the next stage was that it became a good. So by this, you could walk into a shop, you could buy a bag of coffee beans and take it home, brew your coffee. The next stage of evolution is that coffee became a service. So this is when you could walk into a shop and ask for a cup of coffee, and it would be made for you, the service would be provided, and you enjoy your coffee in the shop. And then we get to the next stage, which is as an experience. So think of Starbucks, your name being shouted out, you're walking down the street with your Starbucks branded cup feeling really, really good. So that's referred to as the experience economy, and people refer to that as being leading edge thinking. That's how we all need to operate today. Some of you heard of that? Yeah, are you familiar with that in your companies? Do you talk about the experience economy and how that's where it's at, that's what you need to be doing? Well, I just want to share with you that the experience economy was a phrase coined by a couple of American guys, Pine and Gilmore, in the 1990s. Now, that's the last century. That's 20 years ago. So do you really think we've not moved on from there? I do. And I think that now people are no longer satisfied with having an experience. What they really need to understand is what is underneath the organization that's providing that experience in order to decide whether they want to have a relationship with them. We haven't got time to do it now, but I do an exercise where I ask groups to consider a fictitious clothing retailer that has just got brilliant reviews, give some facts and ask the question, on a scale of 1 to 10, to what degree do you believe you might be a customer of this organization? Up go the hands. It's usually 80% in the 8, 9s and 10s. And then I explain that I forgot a critical piece of information, which is that they use child slave labor to make their clothes. Let's vote again, and you can guess what the result is, switched. So people are no longer making decisions based on rational facts. They are making decisions based on emotions and what's important to them, something that I refer to as the values economy. And here's a recent example using Tesla. You know, people have been criticizing Tesla all the way through, but what they've failed to realize is this, that people want to be part of a project that is not about selling cars, but changing the world. And that's why I believe that the values economy has arrived. So what are values? Values are those things that are deeply important to us. They are emotionally laden, and they are our motivators. They drive our decisions, our choices, and our behavior. Now, the reason I mention that is because over the last 5 years or so, the topic of values has become really kind of trendy, and you hear the word values thrown around here, there, and everywhere by everybody. But it's good to remind ourselves of what actually values are, rather than just spin off a number of words. And it's not just me saying this. If you look up Simon Sinek on YouTube, a brilliant TED talk about the golden circle, and what he explains is that in business we focus so much of our time on the what. That's what our conversations at work are about, what we're going to do. Whereas in fact, it's the how, or the values, and the why, or the purpose, that really emotionally engages people. And Apple is kind of overused, but I think it serves well to explain this. What Simon Sinek says is, you know, Apple say, we're here to make the place a better world. How we're going to do that is through very user-friendly technology. And what that looks like is an iPad, an iPod, a blah, 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 blah. And he said, compare that with Dell, who say, do you want to buy a laptop? Totally uncompelling. It's the why and the how that gets us going. And it's not just consultants that are saying this. So 2 pieces of research by IBM and PwC, you can see here that values features really strongly in this research. And just this year in July, on the right-hand side, the Financial Reporting Council, who are basically responsible for setting the governance code for large organizations, have now rewritten their code to include a responsibility for the board of directors in the values space. This could be a real game changer. So directors are now accountable not only for saying what they're going to do as far as their culture and values is concerned, but then reporting against that and saying what they're going to do going forward again. And there are some companies already doing this stuff. You might like to look these up, and some interesting quotes here. So 86% of consumers believe that companies should have an interest in society, not just a self-interest. 86%. And then you can see how people make decisions in terms of where they work, what they buy, and what they recommend. Not just rational. And this is not just about being nice and being good. It's good for business as well. So moving on to the context, which I mentioned at the beginning, you know, all I've said just now is all fine, but what is making it so important right now and going forward? Well, I've chosen 3 things. You might have some other things that you can think of yourself, but I just want to talk briefly about behavior, communication, and control. So again, looking at some statistics, because this area is sometimes criticized as being a bit fluffy, so I think it's very useful to remind ourselves of some well-researched statistics. So 70% of brand perception determined by interaction with people. 70%. And customers loyal because of employee attitude. Now, this research is getting on a bit, and I was thinking, is that, how does that fit today with the advances in technology? And I came across some research by American Express, and what they were saying is that in the digital economy, it only takes one failure now for a customer to switch. And I was thinking, well, why is that? And the reason why is because you have no emotional connection. You have no relationship with a person, and so why not? Just go. And word of mouth is still what we believe in. And getting away from the statistics, I think another way of looking at this is this quote from Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And that's not a statistic, but I think it really wraps up the sentiment of this point about behavior. And going back to the coffee analogy, Howard Schultz of Starbucks is saying, we don't believe what we're told about an organization through official channels, we believe our personal experience. And it's people every day representing that organization that shape and influence that. The reason why is because that allows us to build up this word that you've already heard this morning of trust. And if you want to look up the trust advisor, it's a really good exercise to do with yourself and with your teams, asking yourself the question, to what degree are we achieving reliability, credibility, intimacy, and self-orientation? I haven't got time to explain the intimacy bit now, but it's not what you think. Social media as well has been a game changer. Two videos for you to look up. If you search on Google United Airlines Olympics, you'll see this one. And it's basically an advert that they've paid for out of their marketing budget. And it kind of goes along the lines of, for the past 30 years, United Airlines have flown the US Olympic team, blah, blah, blah. Guess how many views on YouTube? Come on, this is a sprint. How many views? 1,000. 1,000,000. 50. 16,000. Okay, so that hard-earned money. This guy, some of you might have seen before, Dave Carroll, he was traveling with United, they broke his guitar. He wasn't very pleased about that. He tried to sort it out with them for about a year, and they ignored him. So being a musician, he thought, I'll write a song called United Break Guitars, posted it on YouTube. Guess how many hits? Millions, 18 million. So compare, 16,000 paid for marketing budget, 18 million not paid for, no control. Yay. So in terms of control, this is the way it used to work. Companies used to lock themselves, or the senior guys used to lock themselves away in a dark room, come up with what we are, and then pump it out there through either advertising or PR or marketing, and go like this and hope that people believed you. Well, that's not the way that it's going to work in the future, because in the future, companies will realize that they actually do not own their brand anymore. The brand is co-owned with other stakeholder groups, and that's employees, customers, service partners, so outsourced, communities. And if you think about it, as an employee, when you're in the pub and somebody says, oh, what's it like working for your company? Do you go and look up the website and read them all the official stuff? Or do you tell them what you think? It's the latter. And so those companies that are going to be successful are those that have a sense of shared values between those stakeholder groups. And that's even more important where people are the organization. So finally, alignment. How are we doing for time, Paul? I'd like 5 minutes for, come on, stand up. We'll do this really quickly. So follow these instructions because I haven't got time to repeat them, please. Close your eyes. Both of them. Right arm, point to the ceiling. Okay, keep your eyes closed, keep pointing to the ceiling. Imagine where you think the direction north is. Don't move, keep pointing to the ceiling, keep pointing to the ceiling. Keep your eyes closed. Now, point north. And now open your eyes and take a look around the room. Well, congratulations, forum community. Go on, sit down, sit down. You've actually covered all 4 points of the compass. Jesus. When Paul asked me if I could speak, I said, well, I only like speaking to intelligent groups. And he said, they are. Now, why did you get that so badly wrong? The answer is, it's very unfair to expect you to point in the direction north when nobody told you where the direction north is, right? It's obvious. But in organizations, with our values, we say, look, those are our 5 values up on the wall. Go and do that. And surprise, surprise, we get behavior that's like that. And what we should be doing is being very explicit about what those values mean in terms of behaviors so that people are all pointing north. Thanks for squeezing that in. That was really good. This is the approach that I use to look to help organizations to do what I've just described. And it involves the alignment of these 3 areas. So often in business, the brand is owned by marketing, the employee stuff owned by human resources, and the customer experience delivered by operations. The 3 devise their own unilateral strategies, don't talk to each other, and then they're shocked when it doesn't work. So the service brand approach is very simple. It says, guys, can you please align your thinking, and then can you coordinate the execution of that? And in that way, you will avoid duplication and waste, you'll create synergy, and you'll drive value. Very simple. Then I use an operating platform like this. So basically, you think of all the stuff that you do and put it in these buckets. And that helps to keep things in perspective. So anybody in health and safety here? Excellent. Because they think they're the center of the universe. And they're not. They're just in this box of infrastructure here. They help the world go round, but they're not the center of the universe. So anybody in finance? Same with finance. So what we're doing is helping brand identity, employee engagement, and customer experience go round. Everything else is just there to help support that. And importantly, it needs to differentiate between the areas of strategy, management, and delivery. Often the 3 get confused. Haven't got time to explain how at this stage, but over coffee, if you're interested in that particularly, grab me. And ultimately, what this creates is a business excellence model where you're informing your actions as you go, and then on a more strategic level to inform your bigger decisions for the future. And what happens is that you get fantastic business impact. You create a culture of service excellence, and you have a culture where everybody's just wanting to do better rather than compare themselves against yesterday. So, in terms of key messages, these are the things, please, that you should take away. Your values are really, really important to you. They are the one thing that sets you apart from everybody else. So know where north is, and let everybody know and make sure that everybody's pointing in that way. Understand that your employees are your organization. You know, people talk about, oh, the organization's making redundancy. No, they're not. Somebody's made that decision. Somebody, a person has decided that's what we're going to do. The behavior piece, the penultimate point there, I think is really, really important. So many consultants kind of peddle this silver bullet. Oh yes, this is the thing you have to do. It's not true. There's just loads of stuff that you need to do all at the same time. And I think of it more as your own spider's web rather than a silver bullet. And marketing, I find, is fascinating at the moment because marketing is a bit of a dinosaur in its traditional sense. And your stakeholders are your new marketing department. Far better invest in them than a bunch of guys in a marketing office with marketing titles. Anybody in marketing? Yes. So the values economy has arrived. But this is kind of easy to talk about, but is bloody difficult to do. It's really hard work. And that's, you know, Walt Disney, they had a big argument at board level when they were going to do their customer service training, and half of the guys were saying, that's selling our secrets. But actually, they realized that people didn't have the discipline to do what they'd learnt when they went to Disney. So people came, paid for the training, went back to work, and nothing changed. Leaders need to lead in practice. Their impact on the business is disproportionately important. The more senior you get, the more your behavior is in the microscope. And practice makes more perfect, so there is no such thing as perfection, but don't let that stop you striving for it. And it's the real world, so when things don't go as well as you'd like them to, just get over it and get on. And that's it. You know, people can either reinforce your organization's values or not. There's no in between. So either they're supporting and enhancing the brand, or they're destroying it with their behavior. So why are you paying these guys unless they're behaving in line with what you want your organization to be? Now, as you heard at the beginning, I like to get things done. So what I'd like to invite you to do is either take out your phone and send yourself an email, or use your notes in the back of your book. And just think about this. In order to bring our organization's values to life, next week I'm going to take this small first step. And what I suggest you do is not think about just this session for this, but think about it for the whole of the time that you're here. And if you go away with just 3 things that you're going to do differently, and then you do them, then good for you. The psychology behind this, by the way, is that when you review your email in a week's time, either you'll feel chuffed because you've done them, or you'll feel guilty as hell because you haven't, and you'll get on and do it. So the chances are much, much better than you just sitting here, letting it wash over you and going for a cup of coffee. So if you want to know more, as you've heard from Nicola, books are the things to do. There's also a chance to win a 31 Practices Values project for your organization, which runs until the 30th of November. And if you want to, on your action things, your emails or whatever, if you want to CC me on it, feel free to do that, and I'll be your friendly conscience. And just see how you've got on. Okay, thank you very much.